Today, I've got a very special episode for everybody. I am talking to Vincent Delisi, someone that I go way back with. He's been featured on the Wall Street Journal. He talks about finance and economics, but he is an energy guru. Can't wait for everyone to hear what he has to say. Let's get into it. Welcome to Beyond the Trade, where the levels don't lie, the trades hit hard, and we're here to cut through the noise. No scripts, no safety nets, just raw market talk. Lock in. It's time to go Beyond the Trade.
Beyond the Trade is for educational entertainment purposes only. Nothing you hear should be taken as financial advice. Always do your own research and consult a qualified professional before making investment decisions.
My man Vince, so good to see you, so good to hear from you. How are you doing on this fine Super Bowl Sunday?
Adam, I'm doing great, man. It's great to hop on this podcast here. Appreciate you having me. I mean, we go way back, and I'm excited to chop it up. And, yeah, last day of football. Hopefully it's a good Super Bowl.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, I mean, I'll give a little context about how we know each other. Me and Vince met, man, what was it? Was it 2019 or 2020 on Twitter, back when it was actually still Twitter. And back when we had the infancy of followers. I had a few hundred followers, he had a few hundred followers, and we ended up getting into a group chat together. Since then, that group chat has grown into something we call Levels Don't Lie, all of which these guys, we've all grown. Many of us friends from online. Many people can ask, how can you have friends online? You've never met them, yet you feel so close to them. And that's a special bond that I have with Vince here, is that, you know, sometimes those people that have the biggest impact on your life are the ones you don't have the same social circles with, or they're the same people that you see every day. So with that, I welcome world-renowned trader, world-renowned power trader, Vincent Delisi.
Thanks for the introduction, man. Like I said, yeah, we go way back. I mean, I think it was 2020, and we're just talking on Twitter back then, and posting our ideas and posting charts, and you get consistent with it. You love the market. I mean, we both studied finance, had a ton in common. I even think our birthdays are close, which is another fun fact in there. But yeah, I think we just became good friends. Chatting every day, chatting about the market. And stock trading and just trading in general can be very lonely sometimes, just because not a lot of people in your personal life either know about it, will support it, and things like that. So if you turn to Twitter, X, some of these platforms, you can find a good group and get really close with one another. You can also learn from one another, and that's how you can kind of try and propel your trading journey. As we know, the market's not an easy thing to navigate.
Yeah, that 100%. That's a big thing. I mean, getting into the nitty gritty with people that you met online seems a little bit something you should be stranger danger about at first. But when you really get to know these people, I feel like in ways that's where you find the biggest similarities. So it's cool. I'm not telling everybody to go out and meet a ton of strangers online, but my co-host, Acrotech, I met him online. We met in person. He's my guy. So, there are good folks out there. But Vince, first off, man, just tell me a little bit about your story. What got you going? What did you like about the markets? And maybe tell me a little bit about what propelled you into your transition into energy.
Yeah, well, my story goes back to my senior year of college, and it was during 2020 into 2021. So this was during COVID. The market had crashed that March of 2020. I'm a senior in college. All of my internships got canceled. I had no idea what I wanted to do post graduation, and I was also younger than people in my class. So I was like, you know what? I think this would be a great time to learn about the stock market, get involved. And at first, I started with penny stocks, all these Discord rooms. Of course, I lost money, no clue what I was doing, essentially gambling. But then I realized there is so much potential in the market because there's a new opportunity every single day. There's plenty of ways to trade. I mean, it's very interesting to me. Sure enough, I graduate and I started to see some success. And one of my first strategies ever was just news trading, which really helped me propel some success. Like stocks move on fundamentals, stocks move on news. I remember having a good trade on Pfizer because they're the first vaccine, and I had calls. The stock went up 10%. Well, that's huge for Pfizer. The calls go 200-300%. So I started to find strategies. I started to kind of realize, I could piece some of my creativity into finance, which I'm a finance major. It made sense. It kind of supplemented some of my income that I wasn't able to get from an internship or things of that nature. I ended up graduating in 2021. I was doing pretty well for myself. I was making more money than if I were to work for someone else. So I kind of just went all in with that. And at the same time, too, posting on social media, meeting traders like yourself, doing charts, and just, it's been a cool journey, honestly. My dad also worked on Wall Street, too. So, I guess it ran in my blood, per se. But I always kind of knew I wanted to be a trader, and I fell in love with it in 2020. So from 21 to 23, continue to trade for myself. I've had Discord services in the past in which I've had my room. I've worked with other traders, and it was a good opportunity. I mean, I've been on other podcasts. I did well, but, I kind of wanted something new, and I thought the stock market was getting a little oversaturated, and I had an opportunity to go trade power. And this, to me, I thought, all right, well, I could learn to be a Swiss Army knife trader. I already learned so much about trading the market. I know about option selling, swing trading, reading volume, all my news, all my different strategies. Well, I'm like, maybe I can try to learn something else because that can make me more versatile, to any future employers or just even for myself, to know I can go into different markets and know how to execute different trades. So I started trading power in January of 2024 at my prior company. Great experience. I mean, I learned a ton. That being said, it's not for everybody. I mean, I work shift work, so I would work 11 to 13-hour shifts sometimes because commodities trade 24/7. So that part was exhausting. However, I did get a lot of time off, so I was able to travel a lot. But when I'm on, I'm on. So it had this balance. But overall, it was pretty cool. And I think I learned so much about a niche industry in which I'm very passionate about. And I think they intertwine with AI a lot. So I'm excited to just keep progressing in my journey and just keep learning because if you're not growing, you're dying. So I think it's always great to just learn something new, whether it's AI, trading a different market, whatever it is. That's just how you get better. And I pride myself on that.
Yeah, continuing to learn. And, I completely share that sentiment as we talk about AI. I mean, before this call, we were talking about how I've been in my living room, all weekend programming my own AI agent. And, and I go open claw and Vince, you go, is that one of the, is that a competitor with ChatGPT? I go, no, dude, that's like the open source, da 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 da. I mean, there's so many different angles to get in the weeds with AI now, and I think it's a really exciting time. Of course, some of these things that people are passionate about, some of them are going to fizzle out, right? And some skills are going to fizzle out, but some are going to skyrocket. And I think companies bear that same risk and reward as well. And so, if you had to give me kind of what do you think in your eyes is the next, maybe NVIDIA type trade? And I know the NVIDIA is still a wonderful company. However, what's going to have that next 10x explosion due to this whole new AI? I mean, because we had AI get to a good place, and now we've kind of got agents coming in. It's exciting. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
That's a great question, Adam. NVIDIA, as we know, has had an insane run. The chips, their technology, the infrastructure for these data centers do rely on a lot of those NVIDIA chips and other semiconductors. However, looking at valuation and stuff, I mean, they have a $4.5 trillion market cap. If somebody buys a stock tomorrow, you need that stock to go, gain another $4.5 trillion in market cap to get 100%. Could that really happen in 7 years? Well, what would be the next catalyst after all the AI data centers plan to be installed by 2031? This is where I think what really is slept on is the power, because the power is a part of the infrastructure for these AI data centers. You have the technology with the chips, and then, some of the other software and stuff, but you actually do need the physical power to be flowing instantaneously to keep these data centers on, because they're running 24/7 across the United States. Now, what I have done and have seen based on my research is that natural gas is supposed to supply 60% of power generation for those power plants, like be the main source of fuel. So I've looked at like natural gas stocks. I mean, EQT has like a $34 billion market cap. And we're talking they're still in the billions. They're in the infancy stages. I mean, you compare that to Nvidia with the $4.5 trillion. So it's things like that. I'm looking at things like natural gas. I'm also looking at nuclear. Nuclear is just so efficient. It's kind of in a tier of its own. And there's so much misinformation about nuclear. You have Chernobyl and some of these events that have really swayed people from years ago, Hiroshima. But the public doesn't really know how clean and efficient nuclear energy is. And I think with Trump's administration, he's trying to enhance nuclear energy in the future, or at least definitely before his term is over, by 2028. So, nuclear stocks like SMR, Oklo, uranium is huge, CCJ, and really getting involved in those tickers, because I think in the next 3 to 5 years, those will be the tickers that come to fruition. Because, yeah, you can have the data centers with the infrastructure, but if you don't actually have the power flowing to make this process go, it doesn't really matter. So even like the utilities sector, I think is undervalued. There's a lot of opportunity here, and just learning about the industry that I've been in has really exposed me to some of these potential names and just experience with the future of the AI trade.
Yeah, I mean, uranium and those have gone, and
yeah.
but when you think about it, a lot of people said that about Nvidia. These uranium or these nuclear plays or what have you. A lot of people said that about all of these things. Nvidia was just a gaming chip, right?
Right.
People said that for a long time. Turns out, they're like made for AI.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of differences, obviously, between trading stocks, trading commodities. I know you've done a lot of both. What would you say are kind of the main differences in your eyes, and what can you take from the other in order to better the experience of trading each other?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, yes, trading stocks versus trading commodities definitely are a little bit different, right? The stock market's over 9:30 to 4. It's closed on weekends. Well, commodities, they trade 24/7 because somebody all over the world is going to need them at every time. Even if the demand is lower, but still power is going to need to flow. So, in the stock market, you have technical analysis and some of these other tools and reading volume and all these things to give you an edge over the market. Well, in power trading, there's different variables that we would look into. We look into weather, historical analysis, seasonality, this historical demand, prices, that we've seen in the past, constraints. There's a bunch of other like variables that go into something like this. And a lot of my trading in the past had been done, with other like counterparties, with bigger utilities and other, hedge fund type of shops. So, trading power is very different in a sense. You have to be super accurate, like no errors at all, because an error could really adjust like how the grid actually flows the power. Because I would submit a trade, somebody on the other side is going to see, okay, he's buying or selling X amount of power. The plant operator literally ramped their plant up or down to either absorb or send those megawatts in which I'm trading on behalf of my ex clients. So it's definitely very detail oriented is the way I describe it. I mean, there's so many acronyms that it would blow your mind. So I'd say it took me about 6 months to a year to learn the stock market. It took me about a year and a half, 2 years to really, really get the full gist of trading power. But that's where I'm saying, man, like anybody who's trying to learn something, use these tools like AI to your advantage. Stay curious, ask questions. Ask from others, ask from mentors, ask from traders with more experience. My dad was pretty big in my trading journey in a sense, like he knew how to sell options, he knew how to hedge properly, he knew like he's seen different markets, so when I was just buying calls and buying puts, like, yeah, that's part of the game, but how can you elevate yourself to a different game? You have to adjust your skills, stay curious, and stay humble too. Like, stay learning. Like, you're never going to be better than the market. All you can do is control yourself and let the rest take care of itself.
All you can do is control yourself. And that's a good life lesson there too, Vince. Can't control
Definitely.
those around you. You can control how you respond.
Exactly.
But there
man.
you go. Yeah, dude. So, you were, and you kind of touched on this, but what would you say, or how would you say, trading power has directly impacted your ability to trade in the stock market? Would you say that it made you even more detail oriented? Also, I heard you say you learned how to trade the entire stock market in 12 months. Very nice. I know I had to say something about that. Um, uh, but would you say it's made you more detail oriented? Is it those adjectives? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say definitely the detail orientation and the trade execution part. Like, for example, we're really big in power trading is avoiding errors at all costs. Errors could be like the time the trade's executed, how many megawatts, where's the power going, where's it coming from, transmission lines. There's so many different variables, right? And to make sure this trade is executed properly, you need to make sure you have your details set in place. Now, if we're trading the stock market, okay, I've always been big on this quote where the money is made in the entry, not the exit. And that's something that I really stick by. So, being very patient with your trade execution, knowing where your support and resistance levels are, having a plan, really sticking to that plan, and, not forcing it. And also, too, sticking with your risk management rules, trying to trade robotically. I think when I've executed thousands of power trades, it's kind of just made me like get used to just taking trades and just like being, very detail oriented, very robotic, mechanical approach. That's what I'm trying to also apply to stock market trading as well. But also, then again, we're wrong, a lot. You have to be able to put your ego aside and just be like, okay, I lost. It's on to the next one, and not really beat yourself up over it. But as long as you're sticking to your execution, you're sticking to your rules, that is what can help propel you to have that trading success. So I would say definitely just the trade execution side, because I had very minimal errors in power trading. Now I think with trading in the stock market, I have more trading experience. I'm trying to minimize those errors. And then when I do have an error, or if I do have a losing trade, my risk is mitigated because I know I got a good entry and because I know I followed a plan that I had set up to take that trade.
And I've heard a good quote in the past where it's, the more boring it is in trading, the better it is, right? I'm sure you've heard the similar quotes. But the more boring and just mundane the trading is, no matter, whether it's commodities, equities, options, whatever, long, short, what have you, no matter how, if it's boring, you're probably doing it right.
Yeah.
Or a little bit more right than wrong. You shouldn't be feeling an adrenaline rush. That's a no-go. How would you say the utilities and energy sector, how would you say they're going to impact AI? I know we've talked about AI a lot. I know you like nuclear. How would you say these specific sectors impact and are currently impact, and then also are going to impact, and then maybe some forecasts you see coming in the future for that sector?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think a lot of those utilities, Duke Energy, Southern Power, Dominion Energy, Constellation Energy, I mean, there's a lot. A lot of these companies are going to be the main suppliers for these AI data centers. Now, these AI data centers are all over the United States, and they're going to pull power from different sources. And those utilities are going to be part of the sources. Maybe it'll be from power plants, solar plants, hydroelectric power. There's a bunch of nuclear power. There's a bunch of different ways you can pull the power to sync it to the grid and then go from the grid to those, those data centers. Now, the thing is that these power or these data centers, right, from Meta Amazon, Google, like they don't care about the price per megawatt hour. They're willing to be very aggressive. It's really just, can our grid handle it? So why nuclear is interesting is because nuclear is just so efficient. I mean, I think one uranium pellet is equivalent to like 146 gallons of oil or something like that. It's one little uranium pellet that can go into a nuclear power plant. It's like this education, yeah, if people can get more educated and really start to open their eyes and realize like, wow, this is pretty important, because these data centers are going to require 1,000 megawatts an hour of power. I mean, that per hour. And that's a lot of power. I mean, 1 megawatt of power is enough to fuel one home for an entire month. But if you're doing 1,000, again, it gets you have to really break it down. But 1,000 megawatts an hour, I mean, that's just like 500,000 homes worth of power for 1 hour. Anyways, there's just so much like there's just so much behind your head, and it's very confusing. It's very niche. That's why even still to this day, I'm asking questions every day. But I saw this graphic, and power demand from AI data centers is set to quadruple in the next 10 years, and this is from Bloomberg. So this is real stuff. I mean, all over the U.S., all over China and Europe, and all these other countries, because the AI thing is real. And I think, whether you're trading power or trading the market, just in general as a human being, if you really want to stay ahead, if you really want to try to stick out, I think learning as much as you can from AI is great, because it's just so efficient. That's the number one thing. It's the efficiency. We've never had access to this. I mean, in the past, yeah, you've always had the internet, and you could type in one thing, and you'll get your one thing. You might have to go through a couple websites now. But now you have your chat GPTs, your Groks, your Geminis. You get very specific. You tell it exactly what you want, how you want it done. And it can pull 50 websites at once and consolidate it for you and summarize it in like a minute or less. I mean, that's just nuts. So I think for anybody, whether you're trading, whether you're at your normal job, whether you want to learn power, anything that you want to do, enhance your skill set, really get to learn to use AI. I think that's really how you're going to stick out versus other people.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting, at least for me, to listen to you talk about all of these future, the demand growth for power and all this stuff. And I'd say that's definitely a good, all the need for power, how these companies are going to benefit. It's always, it's going to be stable and growing for a long period of time. And I think that's, if you had to pick one of the main pros of an industry to be in, like, it would be steady and increasing demand and in an expanding industry, right? That is truly a necessity for the future, or at least the future that many of us expect to come, right? And hope.
Yeah.
So I would say that, and of course, and I also want you to share as much as possible that you want to share about, any new endeavors you may be working on. But yeah, what are the pros and cons of being a commodities trader? I know that your industry, it seems like you picked a good one, so that's a pro to start with.
Yeah, the pros and cons. I think, everybody knows about the stock market. And I'm not saying literally everybody, but if you look at it in a sense, a lot of people have 401ks, a lot of people have pension plans, and CNBC. Everybody's heard of CNBC. Everybody's heard of like '08 and like all these other things. Now you have all these brokerage platforms. You have Robinhood and Webull and Schwab and TD Ameritrade and E-Trade and like Public, and like that's great, right? That is great. But now, okay, traders are sharper than ever. Programs are sharper than ever. The technology is the best it's ever been. It's only getting better. So I think what's different about trading commodities, and I looked at this graphic, I think it said there was like 13 million people in the US or worldwide that trade stocks or something like that. And then the amount of people who trade commodities is like 150,000, and specifically like 30,000 trading power. So
Wow.
Yeah, and that to me is very interesting, because if you can learn at skill from the commodity side, then you come back to trading, it's like, wow, first off, I can trade different markets, which just saying that's pretty cool. But second, I know different skill sets, and I know different types of trade execution, if you will, So I think one of the pros is definitely learning a new skill that's very niche. in the past, I've worked with like natural gas traders, and some of our other traders are doing more futures stuff, and I specifically traded power. So there's definitely like different types. I mean, some people trade soybeans and rice and water. Like, I didn't know those traders, but they're out there. It's possible. So if you really want to get diversified with your trade knowledge, I think trading commodity skill is great. Another pro is it can have flexibility with your schedule. Now, at least for me, again, it's not for everybody, okay? I worked shift work. It was hard, but it was pretty cool. I mean, I'd work essentially my butt off for 3 weeks, but then I'd have like a week off built in, no vacation, no nothing, and I can travel. It was pretty cool. I mean, I was able to travel a bunch during my job because, okay, yeah, I'd work hard for 3 weeks to get that week off. I mean, that week off is great. I'd go take a mini trip here, vacation there. So if you like to travel, I think it's one of those cool things. Like, yeah, you're going to have to work shift work sometimes, which isn't for everybody. But if you can stay with it, the time off is a huge benefit. The cons, I would say it is a lot of information. Like, it's information overload. It might even be overwhelming to you in the beginning because it's not taught in college. I never learned a dime about power trading or anything like that. There is a huge learning curve. Like, if you think the stock market has a huge learning curve, which it does, it still does. This one is probably at least 2 to 3 times bigger. So that's where you're going to have to dive into. Okay, maybe you're going to have to do a little bit of research on your own when you're not on the clock, or maybe you're going to have to, use ChatGPT and some of these sources to learn more, because there is a lot to learn. And I mean, that's pretty much it. I think overall it was a great learning experience for me. It's helped me learn so much about an industry I want to stay in and which I plan to stay in. And if you're a trader right now and maybe you're not doing the best in the market, or it's exhausting because it is an emotional toll, right? Trading in the stock market is very emotional based. When you make money and you press buttons, you're the man. You love it. It's great. The dopamine hit is real. Okay, but when you lose money, right? It's like, wow, can I even eat today? Like, you feel worthless. You tie a lot of your happiness into trading and money and results. Well, I guess when you're trading power trading, it kind of takes that emotion out. It's very mechanical. It's very like, okay, this is how it's done. This is how it's executed. That's it. So I think if you want to take your psychology to a new level, trading a different market would also be a great benefit for someone.
Very cool. Yeah, and that kind of leads me to a follow-up question on that is, what has trading in general taught you not only about yourself, but also about your interactions with other people and the way that you live your personal life?
That's a great question. I think trading is it's my first love, really. Like, it's so cool to me that you can just make money by pressing buttons and kind of thinking one step ahead. If you see in the background right there, I have a chess table. I played a lot of chess in the past couple years, but that's kind of a game of life, right? How do you get ahead? You got to think one step ahead. It's like chess in the market. You got to think one step ahead. Anybody who maybe they knew about NVIDIA 5 years ago because they worked, at a competitor, or they just knew about that industry, right? They placed themselves, they took that one step ahead and they got rewarded handsomely for it. And I think that's kind of what maybe I could be doing here with what I've learned in power. But what I've learned about myself is that,
work aside.
Yeah, you got to separate your emotions from your personal life. I think sometimes in trading, at least in my past, it's very easy to get super emotional, especially when you're losing. Everything's great when you're winning, but how can you handle yourself when you're losing, and really just, that's why another thing too, I'm really big into like working out, mental health, taking care of yourself, because your wins in your life cannot only be defined by how much money you make, your P&L, your results. Okay, you got to base your day, you base your life off of other things. Okay, did I sleep well today? Did I get my workout in today? Things like that, really do add up. So I think just trading has definitely taught me you have to have a place for your emotions within and with outside the market, but also kind of know when to, you can't place all your eggs in one basket emotionally as well. You have to try and zero it out to the best of your ability, because that's what the best traders do. Some of the best traders don't look at P&L and look at all of that. They're just there to execute, and they live with the results. That's kind of the type of trading approach I'm trying to adjust to nowadays.
I'm big on posting notes on your mirror and posting
Same.
notes anywhere that I'm going to see it, and scattering notes in places that I don't think I'm going to see them and then seeing them. And one, Vince, that I've had on my mirror for a very long time is it's a note card that says many small wins in all caps, right? And it's many small wins make a big win, right? And I got that out of what you were saying just then. It's like I'm going to base my day around how did I sleep? How did I get my workout in? Did I eat right? Did I smile? Did I laugh? Did I treat other people right? I'm huge on the small wins, and I love that you kind of said, base your, and I think it goes for any profession, whether it's trading, whether you're doing financial work or not, not basing your value on what you're doing or what you're not doing, right? I think it's really hard at times to to go in and work really hard every day and not feel like you're valued. Sure. But how do you not take that out of work? Or also maybe if you feel like you're not doing enough, maybe you feel like you're lazy. But that's not the case. Many small wins make a big win. And over time, we just have to be patient with ourselves, man. And I know that I see you, nodding. I mean, we've got to be patient with ourselves. I always like to say, zoom out on your life, zoom out on the charts, right? You do
Right.
both. And zooming out is so important. Take a wider lens, right? And do you see yourself in 3 months with this still on your mind, right? Is this still bothering you? So, I love what you said. You just kind of got me going off on a tangent.
No,
there.
dude,
But
it's great. Like I love the psychology part of it because really, I mean, that's another passion of mine too, psychology, not just for training but for life. I think men in general are very competitive or results driven. Of course, we're analytical nerds. I am. All these traders are going to listen to it are, right? And a lot of us, we tie our happiness to outcomes. This one quote that stuck with me is focus on the actions, not the outcomes. If the outcomes are, okay, I need to make X P&L, I need to have a house, I need to be married, whatever, all these things that are pretty much outside your control, well, what about the actions leading up to those potential outcomes that you want? Okay, are you doing the extra charting that you need to? Are you reviewing your trades, or are you just like you're taking your winners and then your losers you're not learning anything from? Well, if you don't learn anything from them, you're going to repeat them. So are you consistent with your workouts, or are you just kind of going when you need to blow some steam off? No, you need to show up consistently on the days that you don't want to. It's the things like that. When you really start to focus on the process, everything will take care of itself. I honestly think truly that's kind of how we grew our brands in general. We're just some kids, we're just posting charts and trade reviews and posting about education, and oh look, all of a sudden we just gained followers. I don't think we came into social media and we're just like, hey, all right, I'm going to start this page, I'm going to get this many followers because I'm doing this and this better happen. No, it's more like we just love what we're doing and it's fun, and all of that kind of just came as a result. So, have some passion and compassion for yourself when things don't go right. And yeah, psychology just ties into everything, definitely trading and life as well.
I think it trading teaches you so much about life, and
100%.
it's one thing that I'm really grateful for. I'll make this our last question. This is kind of my first interview. We did an episode where I talked to one of my buddies who does taxes, a CPA, but that was more of an informational one. This is really the first true interview about who made you. And so I'm curious, this may be a repeating question going forward in the future for my future victims, but Vince, what's a belief about yourself that used to be true but isn't anymore?
Wow, that is a really deep question. A belief about myself that I thought was true that's not true anymore.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to be anything
No,
super duper profound, but
yeah, I think, well, one belief that I know that used to be true about me is I used to be super shy. I used to not want to talk to people and, you know, usually just be to myself. But I think as I've gotten older, as I've matured, as I've focused on my taking care of myself and learning and things like that, I've actually come out of my comfort zone quite a lot. And that's helped me just communicate with other people. I mean, that's how I met new friends from trading online. That's how I met new, other colleagues and potential and other friends and things of that nature, my family. I think it's good to get out of your comfort zone and, take that risk. Or if you don't, you're just going to stay the same. Also, too, I embrace curiosity. I've really come to terms that, sometimes I think my questions are annoying. Like I was asking like ChatGPT tons of questions, and I ask a lot of people like so I can get to know them. But I'm like, you know what? It's not boring or annoying. Like this is just a part of who I am. I'm just going to embrace it. So I used to be that kid in class where I'd have a question, but I wouldn't ask it. I was kind of too shy. I thought somebody would judge me or whatever like that. But now I'm asking questions all the time. How'd you do this? Hey, Adam, how'd you learn that? Hey, Grok, how did you? But you know what? If you stay curious, that's how you learn. And what's that other quote? Like knowledge is power. I mean, it's true. So, that's one thing I've learned that's different about myself. I used to be very nervous and shy, but you know what? I'm gonna embrace curiosity and just kind of get out there and be okay with shaking hands with people on the internet, shaking hands with people at my apartment complex, whoever it is, because getting to know people, getting out of your comfort zone, asking questions, that's just how you grow and learn. So
yeah, man, and loving yourself. I love that.
100%.
What an awesome answer.
Thank you,
Well,
man.
Vince, it has been truly a pleasure. I know this has been too much of a long time coming, and it's been such a pleasure to have you on, dude. And I hope to bring you back in the future and hear more about what you're doing going forward.
Yeah, Adam, I appreciate the opportunity to come on, man. I mean, it's just cool how much we've grown. It's kind of crazy, time flies, but yeah, looking forward to hopping on the pod more. Think you're a natural at this, and yeah, would love to stop by again.
Thank you, man. Everybody, have a wonderful day, and tell somebody you love them. All righty. Bye.
Bye, guys.